and let us all do we can to build a better future. So yesterday, I did a live stream on Aaron Mate being on Rising. It was just a short few minutes explanation about what was happening, what he was talking about. But I think it's only fair that we show you this epic kind of takedown again that Aaron Mate seems to be going on full Hulk mode towards TYT and just really, well, their lack of substance at this point. I mean, let's face it, right now there's a whole slew of, again, more questionable videos, misogynistic videos, as well as Cenk Uygur going on the record of saying we need to have more military action towards Syria that's popping up on Twitter.
You can't use a lawnmower in an egg factory.
Yeah, exactly. So the sad fact is that, you know, this is going to keep on going on because I think the only way this is going to end anytime soon is either one, TYT apologizes, or two, the Young Turks invite Aaron Mate on their show to do a debate between Cenk and Aaron. Like, that's the only way I could see any kind of this stuff being stopped because, again, Aaron Mate is going on full rampage mode. So let's first pull up this tweet right here. I talked about this on yesterday's live stream. Aaron Mate, this happened yesterday. I went on Rising to discuss the Young Turks' lies about me and Jimmy Dore and how, on the bright side, their meltdown has helped bring media attention to the OPCW's Syria cover-up and a scandal that everyone else has ignored. There's a YouTube link, but if we go to the next link, and we share that with our viewers and subscribers, this is what kind of caused a lot more videos of Cenk Uygur being called out on social media. And this has to deal with, again, Aaron Mate. In our interview, Rising played a clip of Cenk Uygur recently calling Jimmy Dore a liar. He says, I'm in favor of bombing Syria. I've never said that. He's a preposterous liar. Cenk is lying, and I'll show in the next tweet. So let's first play this clip right here. It's only 18 seconds, so it might repeat itself.
Before we play it, I just want to look at Cenk and just say, look, he's having a really hard time right now. You can just tell by how he's trying to make a face.
Ugh. All right. Well, anyways, let's play this video.
Everything he says is over the top, ridiculous. It's lies. His lies about me are endless. If you ever listen to anything he says, it's a terrible mistake. He says, I'm in favor of bombing Syria. I've never said that. He's a preposterous liar. Everything he's...
Okay, so there we go. That's Cenk Uygur saying that Jimmy Dore's a liar.
I've never said a specific thing, which is that Syria should be bombed. Well, I'm sure that there's... Kit, I mean, you can tell me if I'm wrong. There's probably no footage. Cenk's probably right. He's probably not lying himself. There probably isn't any footage out there contradicting him. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, Daniel, in this next tweet that you're going to see, and I have to read this, and it's just only one. To be fair, there's numerous other clips that are being shared on social media. This is just one right now, but let's actually pull up this tweet. This is, again, from Aaron Mate, again, who's the host of Pushback and is also a journalist with The Gray Zone. In the interview, I noted that Cenk Uygur is lying. In 2013, he advocated bombing Syria following an alleged and since debunked government chemical attack. Cenk argued that the U.S. should be sending a message with bombs. We can't have our bluff called out and not do anything about it. So let's play this video. And this was on the Young Turks in 2013. And the sad fact is that I remember him saying this at the time. And, you know, it just goes to show you just how things have changed and why at the end of the day there needs to be a whole new setup in regards to how independent media is done and also accountability. And again, this is what I said earlier when the segment started. The only way this is ever going to calm down or maybe get Aaron Mate to calm down, because he has every right to be upset. He's entitled to be upset and angry. He was smeared at being called a Russian agent, a Syrian agent. He's getting paid by Russia. He's not.
I don't know where like him and Tulsi go and make sure they do it within earshot of TYT, where they get all these connections from. It's
and again, before we play the video, and let's keep everything as it is. Look, if you're going to make a smear about an award-winning journalist who actually had to testify in front of the United Nations, again, you know, you got to show proof and receipts that he is being paid by the Russians or the Syrians. And here's the truth: he is not. Aaron Mate is not being paid by Russia or Syria. So let's play this video of Cenk Uygur advocating bombing for Syria.
And remember, so just to be clear before we walk into this, I've been told by the wonderfully always truthful Cenk Uygur that under no past circumstance has he ever said he wants to bomb Syria. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
okay.
correct.
Well, let's hear him not say that then.
Now let me show you why they don't want to take military action. First of all, the American people have been polled. They don't want to go. 62% say hell no, 24% say yes. Now, I'm partly in the yes category. This is a rare situation where I'm not in the center of the country. Like, I love to show polls and show, look, my position is the same as the American people. Here, I don't want ground troops. That would be an absolute mess. But I think if we drew a red line and we said, hey, listen, we're going to set a precedent not to use chemical, biological, or nuclear weapons, and a dictator has crossed that line, I think using our Air Force is a significant possibility, and we could, knock down their entire fleet probably fairly quickly and efficiently, thereby giving the rebels a much bigger advantage and sending a message without having to risk ground troops. It doesn't mean you don't risk anything, and it does cost a lot of money. I get all that, and there's significant downsides. But we can't have our bluff called and not do anything about it. We lose all credibility, and plus, even more important than that, I don't want anybody using chemical and biological and nuclear weapons, so I do want to send that message.
Okay, so
I
Daniel.
see how it is. It's one of those, when Republicans send bombs, they're sending bombs, and that's sending bombs. And Jake's like, I don't want anything to do with those bombs being sent. But when Democrats do something, they're not sending bombs. They're sending a message that just is bomb-shaped, that is raining from the sky, and it's completely different.
So I want to make something very clear. When you start making statements, especially on Rising, which is, again, a news outlet, or on social media, the thing is, you got to be consistent. You just can't pretend to be a moral authority or pretend to be a hero. That's why, here at Hard Lens Media, we're people. We're not going to say that we're heroes or heavyweight champions or out to save the world or anything like that. The reason why we are doing this show is because of what we saw in Philly in 2016 when the Democrats committed election fraud. And there must be a voice for the voiceless. There must be people to speak out and call out corruption. But again, there are more videos, and we could be here all day showing numerous videos, not only of Cenk Uygur calling for more bombing in Syria, but also some questionable misogynistic videos, as well as when TYT is using some very dangerous slurs. And that's all I want to say right now, because again, it's kind of really out there. So
it's like, oh man, TYT, your ego stepped in it, and you have your own receipts. You have your own skeletons in your own closet, and you never thought to think, man, again, I mean, you could say this started in a lot of different places, but this started because they were trying to attack a journalist on what they thought was a closed-door show.
Yeah.
And it got public. And at that moment, they could have said, hey, look, it's behind the scenes. We were expressing frustration. We didn't actually mean it. But I don't think I've ever seen Cenk Uygur apologize for anything, no matter how wrong he is. I think he actually literally is in the Trump school of thought out apologies, which is double down, never apologize. It shows weakness. And, of course, Cenk would rather have TYT collapse than show weakness, which sort of is its own interesting little conundrum. And then Anna just kind of shoots from the hip and just says what she feels, even if that thing that she says that she's feeling isn't the most accurate thing. And then she also has followed in the footsteps of only apologize never and demand an apology from everyone and then attack them for apologizing after they do. But again, they decided to attack people. It's literally, they used the Hillary Clinton playbook. Let's be completely real. Hillary Clinton's playbook was, when she was running against Trump, was the thing that her team felt she was the most vulnerable to was being connected to Russia. So what did they do? They accused everyone against her of being connected to Russia. TYT, what do? They say a lot of very questionable things in a lot of their history and had a lot of really terrible segments that we've covered already and more that are coming out. So what do? They start a fight out of nowhere with someone who doesn't have these things, but Cenk, Anna, if you're watching this, maybe someone else that's on TYT, don't use the Hillary Clinton's playbook. You don't have enough support.
Yeah. So speaking of which, Dan, I want to use a word that you used about TYT. They're the bloated whale, and everyone's taking a bite out of it. Let's pull up this next tweet right here. Now, look, we can't play this video because there's copyright music in it, but if you haven't seen it, the Gray Zone really gave a gut check to TYT. It's about 2 minutes, almost 20 seconds long. But again, if we can we scroll back up to that tweet again real quick? So again, check it out. It's in the show notes in the description box below, so be sure to check it out. But it's worthwhile to see. The Gray Zone put together TYT's greatest hits. So let's scroll down to the next video. And again, this is another video, just a few short seconds. TYT's Cenk Uygur cheers on Al Qaeda and ISIS at the time for what was happening in Syria at the time. So let's go ahead and play that video.
But now there are significant signs that Assad might be on his way out. Number one, the rebels are advancing. They have captured territory near the Turkish border and then outside of Damascus, and now there is fighting in Damascus. Anytime rebels reach the capital, it is a really bad sign for the regime. You remember what happened when rebels reached the Libyan capital? Eventually, we found Gaddafi running around the streets with something up his ass. Literally. You remember before he was killed in the streets, they did some interesting things to him.
Okay, pause it real quick. Cenk, I'm really surprised you're not going into more detail. That's your whole thing. Also, Kit, can you remind me what happened after those rebels that got so lucky to go to the capital in Libya? What happened to Libya afterwards? Was it really good? Were things prosperous again?
What happened in Libya is after the fall of Gaddafi's regime, it became a slave market. Slavery was happening all over the country. And still is happening. And to quote Hillary Clinton, we came, we saw, and he died. That's what happened in Libya. You know, you can have your opinion about any world leader, but the aftermath of Gaddafi's regime caused a lot of chaos.
Remember when Libya was one of the most prosperous countries, even under a dictatorship in Africa? Remember? Key point, remember?
The sad fact is that the United States helped and Western powers helped contribute to that decline. And it should never have happened in the first place. And to be very clear here, Gaddafi was cooperating with the U.S. in getting rid of his weapons of mass destruction, not weapons of mass destruction, but, you know, chemical weapons programming or anything else like that. He was following through.
Yeah, but he didn't do the real thing and drop his new currency. Anyway, Cenk, I'm sorry just so much, Cenk. I know you like taking up the space, so why don't I let you finish?
Assad's got to be thinking, tick-tock, tick-tock.
That's what you're thinking.
I've already read reports that he is trying to figure out where he would go in exile. You better figure it out quick, son, because they're coming for you. So first, NATO Secretary General says the regime's collapse is only a matter of time. Now, NATO wants the regime to collapse. They're against the regime. So you might say, hey, you know what? Maybe it's just wishful thinking. They add further. In general, I think the regime in Damascus is approaching collapse. I think now it's only a question of time. So saying it over and over again, very clear, right? Now, when the Russians say that, you're in trouble. He's saying, unfortunately, it looks like the rebels are making significant progress. But that's not all. The Russians are now beginning the pullout of all Russian citizens in Damascus and in Syria. Whoever wants to stay. Whoever wants to run. This thing's about to collapse. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take the Russian...
Can you roll that back about 5 seconds? Like, he said, like, sounds, and I don't understand what he said. Can anyone in chat tell me what he just said?
Whoever wants to stay. Whoever wants to run. This thing's about to collapse. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take. The Russian foreign minister adds, hey, look, it could take a long time, and there could still be a lot of fighting, and your side could still lose tens of thousands, maybe 100,000 people. Do you really want to go through that? In other words, let's do a peace deal right away because we're about to lose.
Okay, let's stop right there. Let's stop right there. I want to read a few excerpts from Aaron Mate's article where he calls out the Young Turks. I think it's very important to look at his award-winning work. You're going to have to scroll down a little bit, but it's actually we're winding back the clock of what happened. So let's briefly review the facts to see who's denying what. In April of 2018, the United States, United Kingdom, and France bombed Syria after accusing the government of committing a chemical attack in Douma. That same month, but OPC inspectors who visited the scene days later found no evidence of a chemical weapons attack in Douma. And again, I want to remind everyone, Aaron Mate testified from the United Nations. If there was ever a time to try and prove somebody wrong, that was the time. And the thing is, a lot of people acknowledge Aaron Mate's work. He has done the work. He is an award-winning journalist. He's done the work. There's no debate about this. Neither me or Daniel can deny the work that he has done. He's been in the ground in Syria, in many other dangerous areas as well. Continuing on. A trove of leaked documents, including the team's suppressed initial report, showed that their findings were doctored and kept from the public. After this censorship was protested internally, a group of U.S. officials visited The Hague and, in a highly irregular move, tried to convince the team that chlorine gas was used. The inspectors were then removed from the case and replaced by a group that, with a few exceptions, never set foot in Syria. The OPCW's final report, released in March of 2019, aligned with the U.S. narrative in claiming that chlorine attack likely occurred, distorting or outright omitting the countervailing evidence gathered by the original inspectors. To Kasparian, my choosing to report on this scandal, including my trip to Duma to see it up close, apparently amounts to an act of denial. The opposite is true. Worse than the opposite, in fact, the prevailing refusal by U.S. media outlets to cover the OPCW story is one of the most irregular cases of willful blindness and journalistic self-censorship since the lead up to the Iraq War. Apologies for the cough. They are not only running cover for warmongering of the Trump administration they claim to loathe, but also banning the brave OPCW whistleblowers who challenge the cover-up at great personal risk. Worse, they are denying justice to the Doma victims whose actual cause of death remains unknown. So, again, if you want to read Aaron Monte's full article, you can find that link in our show notes in the description box below. But I think as a final note to this story is that Aaron Monte has every right to be upset, and he is continuing to speak out. This is his profession. He is a journalist through and through. There is no denying it. He sets the example for the rest of us to follow, just like Glenn Greenwald, Max Blumenthal, and so many others who are heroically out there speaking truth to power, but yet get smeared by the establishment and, I guess, quote-unquote, independent media. What needs to be done if there's ever to be any kind of peace, which will never happen, again, this is just wishful thinking, well, not on my part, but if for TYT, they should, and that is either one, apologize, which Daniel, you've pointed out, Cenk Uygur will never do that. Jimmy Dore said that Cenk Uygur has a huge ego. Or two, TYT, debate Aaron Mate. Have him on your show.
There's a third option. That is the path that TYT is doing, which is what I was saying earlier, that they just don't have enough support to actually make that happen. It's what the U.S. empire did when it was more popular, which is just say you're wrong and gaslight enough that eventually everyone just agrees with you, which is the path that they're currently trying to take. And the way they're doing that is by saying, we have this many viewers, Mate has this many viewers, we could just ignore them. It goes very hand in hand with what Anna Kasparian did by saying, if you like Jimmy Dore at all, leave TYT. Although it does seem to be interesting behind the scenes that they're making it very hard for people to pull their membership ever since that was said. That's a separate story for a separate time. But yeah, it's they're just not in the best of shape, and they they basically something blew up in front of them, and then they stepped on something else and it blew up in front of them, and now, well, they've basically mobilized more people against them, and the people sitting on the sidelines that were wondering, do I stay with TYT or not? They're dropping out. TYT supporters, they're dropping out. Membership people, they're dropping out. Although there's, again, being stymied by TYT's new setup of membership.
I want to call it a new setup. I just think it's just more of mismanaged.
Well, mismanaged is also a little... There's more malice, I think, than a mismanagement. It's more like a... I don't know, intentionally making it very difficult for people to pull out of TYT membership now that they're losing a bunch of people. So instead of doing the adult thing and after you tell people to leave, letting them leave, you're trying to keep their money.
Yeah.